is going on, Boston Celtics fans? Welcome into Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Allie Barefoot. Two hot topics to discuss on Celtics Today that do have a lot to do with the NBA trade deadline, including the Miami Heat, who took advantage of that deadline on February 8th, went on ahead and added Terry Rozier to their roster, which is a pretty scary sight to add Terry. In the second half of the show, we're going to talk about a possible trade the Boston Celtics could add for Nick Richards, as the Charlotte Hornets seem to be pretty active ahead of the deadline. First and foremost, what does Scary Terry look like for the Miami Heat? Well, I think Smitty's graphic says it all. The Heat get hotter. Former Celtic, I might add, Terry Rozier traded to the Heat. Are the Heat now real contenders in the East? Look, Boston Celtics fans know better than anybody what Scary Terry is capable of, and I think the overall answer here is yes. But first and foremost, let me go on ahead and ask you guys, what was your reaction to Miami trading for Rozier? As you guys know how this show breaks down is that I provide my opinion followed by some very lengthy stats to provide why I think that. But here at Chat Sports, I want to hear from you guys. That's what makes us Chat Sports. So go on ahead and comment down below your reaction to Miami trading for Rozier, and are you guys pretty worried? Let's go on ahead and break down what that trade actually looked like. The Heat did receive Terry Rozier, and instead they gave away Kyle Lowry, which is not surprising. There's been a lot of drama between these two in the franchise, and of course a 2027 first-round pick that is protected 1 through 4. So overall, I think the Heat absolutely won this trade. You added so much when you added a player like Terry Rozier. Like I said, Boston Celtics fans know that best. I think this makes the Heat a lot better. Why? Because Terry Rozier is a great ball handler. He's shooting fantastic from a three-point line right now, and he's making even more free throws on top of that. Right now, 23 points per game, which is fantastic considering the Charlotte Hornets are poop. And then the assists per game is nearly 7 assists per game. 4 rebounds, 45% from the field, and his three-point percent is 35. You know what? He's averaging about 7 shots from the three-point line per game right now. So Terry Rozier is shooting lights out for the Charlotte Hornets, and now he's making his way to a contender against the Boston Celtics, which he could be playing for them on Thursday night when the Celtics do take on the Heat. But of course, Kyle Lowry has made up a lot of the Miami Heat DNA in the past couple of years, but this season has not been his best, averaging about 8.2 assists are right there, 3.5 rebounds are 4. His field goal percentage is fine, 42.6. His three-point percentage is 38.5. This isn't the Lowry that the Heat have needed in the past couple of years. Although there was a lot of drama that went along with what Lowry and the Heat were going through, I do understand this was time to say goodbye, and the Heat definitely upgraded. However, the Celtics cannot sign Lowry in the buyout market. We are ahead of the tax apron. So overall, I'm okay with that. I don't think we ever really wanted to sign Kyle Lowry this year. I think the Boston Celtics are pretty happy. The only time I would want to sign Kyle Lowry is just to say suck it to the Miami Heat fans and play them with Kyle Lowry. But that's just more my own opinion than anything else. But nonetheless, go on ahead and let me know, where does Terry Rozier push Miami in the Eastern Conference standings? Right now, they are within the top 10. Boston Celtics have held that number 1 spot for so long. However, we do play the Miami Heat on Thursday, potentially with Rozier. Hasn't been announced or not if that will be his debut. That's just what I am assuming it will be. But like you guys know, we will be live for this ball game as well. So anything you guys want to talk about Terry Rozier, feel free to drop in the comments, and let's have a face-to-face conversation via camera on Thursday night when these two do play, potentially with Rozier. Let's go ahead and break down the Miami Heat just a little bit more and see how Rozier actually does fit in with these other top players. Of course, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo were also just recently named to the 41-player pool for Team USA. Now you're adding Scary Terry, who's averaging more points than Tyler Hero, and he's been dealing with injuries. He's averaging more points out of the 3 of these guys. His rebounds are right there. I mean, not with Bam Adebayo, but I'd be a little scared if they were. And his assists are dominating. He elevates this offense to another level. And this is definitely going to be interesting to see Rozier's initial fit. Like I said, I'm not really that concerned about the Heat with Terry on Thursday of this week, just because that gives you 48 hours to really introduce a pretty offensive piece into an already fast-paced offense. So I'm more worried about this team down the line. Nonetheless, they do have to play with or without Scary Terry on the Miami Heat's roster. So, predict the score of the Boston Celtics versus the Heat. I assume a lot of these scores are going to change now that trade has been made. But nonetheless, go ahead and let me know what you think the Boston Celtics versus Miami Heat score will be for their Thursday night game. While you guys are doing that, I hope you're taking your time. I'm going to tell you guys about PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in America. You guys know I play it every single game day, and there's a reason for that. It's extremely fun to play. Take it from me, I never, ever, ever liked putting money down on games. I didn't understand it. If you guys saw me in my last stream, you guys can see I do not do math very well. So, PrizePicks makes it super easy to play along and win up to 25 times your money on any entry, because all you have to do is pick between 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less on their projected stats, and you can win yourself some real money in real time. I went on ahead and picked these NFL picks for this upcoming weekend's games because right now PrizePicks is having a promo to have Christian McCaffrey have half a rushing yard. If you've ever seen CMC run, this is a lock. And of course, Travis Kelce to have more than half a rushing and receiving touchdown in this weekend's ball game. I think these are two solid picks. So if you want to go ahead and make them or make your own, just go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Be sure to use that promo code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100 and watch yourself win some real money in real time. And this is why you guys stick around to the second half of the video, because we have a lot more to discuss and possibly a trade that could help the Boston Celtics become even hotter than the Miami Heat with their recent trade. And we are talking about Nick Richards. No, this is not as flashy of a name as Scary Terry is, but Nick Richards is a cheap asset that could provide a lot of depth for the Boston Celtics. And the Charlotte Hornets did come out and say, look, we're not really done making some roster moves, and that, as they did call it, a long-awaited reset. And we can talk about the Charlotte Hornets as much as we want, but we all know they did beat us in overtime, so you can only say so much, unfortunately. But the Charlotte Hornets are continuing to take calls about numerous players on their roster, and PJ Washington and Nick Richards are two players generating serious interest from multiple contending teams. Like you guys know, the Celtics do not have enough money to be able to afford somebody like a Miles Bridges or Gordon Hayward. So let's go on ahead and look at what Nick Richards could bring to the Boston Celtics for a pretty cheap price. He's averaging right now 9 points per game, which is great as somebody coming off the bench for the Celtics. 8 rebounds per game is fantastic. One thing I've loved about the Boston Celtics depth is you've got players like O'Shea Brissett, Luke Cornett, Peyton Pritchard, who are constantly crashing to the board. I think Richards could do that just as well. 1.3 blocks per game is fantastic. 68% from the field is phenomenal for Nick Richards. And he's doing all of this in less than 25 minutes per game. And he's also doing it for a team that is not good. Although they beat the Boston Celtics, let's not talk about it. But I do think that he could be a great asset on a team that is doing good, like Boston is. But unfortunately, because he is so cheap, he's going to have a little bit of tug and pull. He does have some injury issues, don't we all? Richards missed his 3rd straight game on Monday with an ankle. He will be reevaluated in the future, which isn't that terrible. Of course, the Boston Celtics have somebody sit every other night, whether it's high inflammation of the knee, whether it's rest, or there is an actual injury. So I think that while you're just trying to get a bench piece, you just kind of rehab them and see where this could go before February 8th. But that's just my opinion. You guys know how I feel. This isn't our channel unless you guys comment as well. So, should Boston trade for Nick Richards? Go ahead and type Y for yes, N for no before we even introduce a trade that may make a lot of you happy. Type Y for yes, type N for no. And boom, here's the trade. Nick Richards will come to the Boston area, and the Hornets do not receive a single player from our roster. But instead, thanks to Grant Williams, who we did beat the other night, $6.2 million trade player exception, a 2024 second-round pick via Dallas, and a 2027 second-round pick via Atlanta. No first-rounders, nobody off our 15-man roster right now. The Boston Celtics stay the same, but we just get slightly better on the bench. That sounds like a good trade to me. In reality, Richards' game has improved extremely well every season in the league. $5 million contract each of the next 2 seasons. It does make a lot of sense considering a lot of our players aren't even over about $2 million right now. I think if you invest just a little bit more money, which is that trade player exception, you can get a player that's worth it. Sam Hauser has been a great addition for somebody that's worth $2.1 million. Peyton Pritchard, however, has been $4.1 million, and I haven't seen as much consistency as I would like. So to get a $5 million player that's putting up that kind of numbers, I'm all for it. Would you accept this trade? Type A for accept, type D for decline. You guys already know Smitty and I, Smitty built this trade. We are all in. We are typing A for accept. I wish I had Brad Stevens' phone number so I could call him and ask him myself. But until then, type A for accept, type D for decline. Another small move could really pay dividends here. As you guys have seen, the bench has gotten a lot of minutes on the floor, whether or not somebody has been resting or because they just need the starters to take a minute. So the fact that the bench plays a huge role in the Boston Celtics game night in and night out, a small move could be huge for the Boston Celtics. If anything does happen, of course, we will let you guys know right here on Celtics Today. So all you guys have to do, Smitty and I would take care of the work, is just hit that sub button for me.